Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The following program is sponsored by Max Out Savings Advisors. The views expressed during the broadcast are solely for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily express the views of KNTH, its management, Max Out Savings Advisors, or its sponsors. Max Out Savings Advisors and members of the Max Out Savings team may or may not hold securities mentioned during the show. Plan for your prosperity. Prepare for your retirement. Safeguard your savings. And nurture your investments. This is the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka, a presentation of Max Out Savings Advisors. Now, here's your host from Max Out Savings Advisors, Ted Gioka.
Welcome to the Max Out Savings Show. I'm Ted Gioka, and we're talking savings, investments, in your retirement here on the show today. Our show is all about building up wealth, understanding the world today, and dealing with it, navigating through retirement, understanding how to get through it in these very, very difficult times. And so our motto and our philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. Save aggressively, invest conservatively. That's the key to building up wealth over the long term. And you always want to start with your company plan and put away as much money as you can. And then, when you retire, you can come talk to us or move your 401k. You can talk to us. We manage IRA rollovers in trust for wealthy clients. But first you've got to get there, and first you've got to put away the money and build up the wealth. So you want to save a minimum of 10% plus the company match, and just put away that money in your program. There's more and more companies out there are now letting people invest in their. They're opening up plans themselves. The smaller companies are opening. 70% of employees in the United States have access to a 401k plan, and this is up from 60%. And so people are really starting to get it. You got to protect yourself, and you got to put away money for your retirement. So take care of that. Take charge of your retirement. And if you're not saving that 10% minimum plus a company match, then now's the time. And by the way, we started this show back in 2006. Wow. And at the time we started talking about savings, the savings rate was was under 1% or at 1% at one time. We're like, there's a savings crisis in the United States. People would call us up and go, Ted, I'm saving 20%. I'm saving 25%. I'm saving 30%. So this is just a target. We just want to get you where you need to be but a lot of people are saving a lot more money than that. So help take care of yourself and put away that money. Be more conservative. People like the Japanese and the Chinese, in some cases, have savings rates twice what the United States is. And so it can be done. It's just a matter of cutting back. And in a very uncertain world, I think it's more important than ever. So I got a lot to talk about on the show today. The markets, what's going on with the markets. The S&P 500 is basically even year to date. And other things, are doing worse. Some are doing better. We're going to be discussing that, what's going on. I've got to just touch base on this meeting with Trump and Zelensky in the White House was just extraordinary. To sit there, and I've never seen anything like it. Where Zelensky's arguing with the president of the United States, and it's just incredible what went on. And I tried to kind of go through the video to see if it was Trump was really starting it, but he really wasn't. Zelensky just wouldn't kind of back down. It was clear he just really wasn't ready for peace. And Vice President J.D. Vance said, haven't even thanked us, and he just went off. And Trump was trying to make a case. Look, you got to work diplomacy. You got to work with both sides. And Zelensky was having nothing to do with it. And in the end, Trump just let it run so the American people could see what we're really dealing with. And you could just see, it was just pretty much of a disaster. You could see from the facial expressions the Americans and the Ukrainians. But the more fascinating thing is after it went on, all of a sudden the Europeans are all high-fiving Zelensky for standing up, and Zelensky basically was asked to leave the White House. There was no he was supposed to have lunch afterwards with the president, and they were going to go into some meetings, and it just utterly failed. I mean, Trump's got this program for the critical minerals to pay us back the $350 billion. Look, let's be realistic. We're not getting the $350 billion back. Donald Trump knows that, but he also figures, hey, if we've got our companies in there operating these mines and doing things, that if the Russians try to pull something, they're going to be much more reticent because they know we're going to get drawn into the battle. Versus if we've got no dog in the hunt over there, and so Trump is being pretty shrewd. And candidly, look, let's be realistic. Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, and if you get American companies in there, you kind of put away some of the corruption and it's not. It just, I don't understand what the big deal was, but it seemed to be that the shocking kind of thing was that the Europeans just in lockstep all started high-fiving Zelensky. And I think, look, this is kind of a good thing because this is saying the Europeans are willing to go. They're like, look, we'll take over for the Americans, and which is fine. We don't need to be impoting out our armament, our munitions to the Ukrainians. I mean, if we're in a war with China, we got a problem right now because we got no munitions because we gave them all the Ukraine. Zelensky hasn't held up. He basically stood up because he's been standing on top of our munitions. And probably more important than that, our intelligence, which is truly extraordinary, which is kind of telling him where to hit, what to hit, where the weakness points are with the Russians. And he's been remarkably, unthankful for what he's gotten. And clearly, he's too deeply involved. And Trump's like, look, we've lost 1 million human beings in this war. Why can't we stop? But there's something, so people are attacking Trump for being friendly with Putin. And in the talk with Zelensky, he made it clear. He says, look, I can't go and call the guy all types of names and try to get some type of deal. I've got to, we've got to work with both sides. But understand, Trump is not just trying to work a deal with Ukraine versus Russia. Russia is also helping Iran. Iran is a big problem. It's not going away. They're going to get nuclear weapons. So the question is, how do we deal with this thing? If you look at this Ukraine war, and bear with me just a minute. I know this is a financial show, but we talked about this from the beginning. What it is, within a week or two of the war, we said this is an absolute disaster on so many levels. And then when we froze the assets, we said this is going to hurt the dollar. It's going to hurt our standing in the world. It's going to hurt our financial system. We said this is going to be inflationary. We actually, in our free max out savings report, we listed all the commodities that were coming out of Ukraine and Russia that were going to go up in price, and we were right. It led to a big surge of inflation, and so here we are. But the other thing is, it's cemented. Before, Russia was kind of in the middle, and now all of a sudden we created this homogeneous block of Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. Common borders in many cases on a lot of those countries into a solid block against the United States of America, which was foolish. I mean, Richard Nixon was always trying to sit there and figure out ways to separate the Russians and the Chinese. One time the Russians and the Chinese were attacking each other on the border because he knew it was in our best interest. So our best interest is to have Russia on our side to some extent. Hey, can we go in? Can we go launch in and beat the Russians? Absolutely. We can send troops in. We can come rolling in there. Once we go into Russian territory, the nukes start going off. Hey, maybe it's just a couple nukes. Maybe it destroys the United States. Or, you know what? Maybe what else happens is maybe the Chinese come in on the Russian side like they did in North Korea against us, and then we back up to the Ukrainian border, and then there's Chinese bases all up and down the Russian border against Europe. I mean, this is these people are such fools in Europe. They're these globalists that haven't gotten one thing right. This Davos crowd that wants to get rid of Vladimir Putin because he's a big oil and gas guy, and they want to convert everything to electricity. And anyone that stands up to the Davos crowd, like Donald Trump, is going to be tried to destroy it, and they have created a mess. There is no winning in this situation. I mean, I've really been surprised there's been no launch of a nuclear weapon of some type. I mean, it's just fraught with incredible danger for the world. All it takes is one nuclear weapon launched, which won't even get into all the details specifically. We're probably looking at a loss of 50% of the human life in the United States of America and the complete destruction of our standard of living. And yet here this clown is Zelensky it walks into the Oval Office and insults the President of the United States of America, insults the American people, and carries on like a petulant child. Then he has the audacity to sit there and tell to tell J.D. Vance to lower his voice. We sent over Treasury Secretary, new Treasury Secretary Bissett to talk about these programs that deal with the critical minerals. He took a 10-hour overnight train ride into Kyiv and talked to him. Zelensky was yelling at him so loud they could hear it through the walls. When Secretary Bissett came out, his voice was shaking. This guy is incredible. And then for all the European leaders to sit there and chime in like a bunch of parrots backing Zelensky, they can have the war. Honestly, if I was Trump, I'd call a meeting of the NATO members, and I'd be figuring out how we're going to transfer all responsibility to the Ukraine over to the Europeans. They want this, they can have it. Look, this is a war basically between this is this Davos crowd, this World Economic Forum people that are out there that are fomenting this trouble. And I tell you, the other place we've got to be real concerned is in Canada. Mark Carey's wanting to. There's a number of the globalists are getting into Canada, and the question is, can we have a globalist World Economic Forum government sitting on our borders threatening us? And this is a bigger deal than people realize. Sheinbaum down in Mexico, another globalist, she seems to understand. We can't tolerate these people on our borders, period. The globalists are as big a threat as the Chinese to the American people, to the American way of life. And if you doubt me, just understand they're for all open borders. They're for no nations whatsoever. They're for out of control crime. They're for you're not going to eat meat. You're going to start eating insects. I mean, they're for depopulation. These people are just lunatics on the level of James Bond villains, and so I think you're going to see. I think this thing is still moving along. These people are the reason why they're all chiming in right now to support Zelensky is not because they think he's right. They're all horrified too. Is they're looking for any chance to try to go after Trump. They're waiting for. They think this is their opportunity. This is what we've talked about in the show. They're going to try to come after Trump. Trump is winning. Elon Musk is winning. J.D. Vance is winning. Tulsi Gabbard is winning. Kash Patel is winning. Pam Bondi's winning. We're winning all over the place. We have the most powerful cabinet since Franklin Delano Roosevelt in place. They're moving quickly. They're moving at great speed. They're cleaning up our issues. They're reducing our debt. They're cutting our spending. They're finding. I'm shocked at the level. I think everyone is at the level of corruption. Just giving out $1 billion, $2 billion to NGOs, and it turns out that they're Democrat favorite charities or the wife of congressmen or something like that, and maybe a third of the money goes to the country and 2/3 end up back in the pockets of it's just incredible corruption, and so all of this is this huge battle going on in Washington D.C. and around the world for control, and you're seeing it. And so they're coming. And this is why we've been saying you're going to see a much more volatile market. This is why we had this sell-off in the market this week. It's a very weak market on so many levels. We're going to talk about that and how that's going to affect your 401k and IRA, about some big changes that we're seeing in the markets right after this quick break right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
The Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka is taking your calls now at 713-339-1070. Ted Gioka will return after these messages.
Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. Our motto and philosophy is to save aggressively and invest conservatively. The world is changing at a faster rate than any time in the last 50 years. The investment world has changed. Have you changed? Inflation will destroy your retirement. It is a different world that requires different strategies and ideas. The era of indexing and investing is over. If you need help, listen to the Max Out Savings Show. Our show airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. We talk about investments, the world, and where the world is going today, and help you understand it and help you save money and build up wealth. It's the Max Out Savings Show. And if you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. On the website, you can sign up for the free Max Out Savings Report. Our report covers all types of these big issues, the changes in the world, and helps you understand and protect your retirement. So go to the website, maxoutsavings.com.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. Ted Gioka, the founder of Max Out Savings Advisors, always says, save aggressively and invest conservatively. He specializes in helping people grow their retirement account with as little risks as possible. Ted combines working knowledge with the intuition gained from over 25 years of experience of value investing in the stock and bond markets for retirement accounts. Like you, Ted is deeply conservative in life and in his investment approach. His risk strategy allows him to anticipate market downswings to protect your money. Ted is also the conservative host of the Max Out Savings Show. You can listen to him every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on The Answer. If the idea of saving aggressively and investing conservatively appeals to you, the best way to get to know Ted is to call him. The number is 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com. That is maxoutsavings.com. Call Ted right now, 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com.
This is Ted Gioka, host of the Max Out Savings Show, one of Houston's most popular financial radio shows, celebrating over a decade on the air in Houston, Texas. With stocks at record high valuations and interest rates near record lows, you need to have your guard up. You need to have a plan to manage risk to your retirement. Do you? At Max Out Savings Advisors, we have a risk-based value investing approach to your retirement. If you would like some help managing your retirement, go to maxoutsavings.com to set up an appointment. That's maxoutsavings.com.
Once again, here's your host for the Max Out Savings Show, Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. We talk at the markets this week. We've had basically 2 weeks now of a sell-off in the market, and looking at the market, the market was basically last week, not this past week, but the week before, the market was at all-time highs. I mean, champagne corks were going off. It was great. And since then, it's fallen down from about 61.50 down to 58.50. It's nearly 5%. It had a big rally Friday on the close, just to sit there and show it back up to the 100-day, just to show everyone, hey, we're not completely fall. But it just doesn't look good. It's basically flat year to date now. And so looking at the bond market, about that same time, the yields have started to fall too. The 10-year's gone from about just under 4.6 to 4.2%. So what's going on? Well, a couple things. What people are realizing is that right now, as we talked about in this show, we've been borrowing $1 trillion every. Let me just kind of set the stage. $1 trillion every 100 days. So additional money, not spending but borrowing. So every 105 days, we have $36 trillion in debt. Our deficits are running about 6.5% of GDP for the last 4 years under Biden. But when Donald Trump left office, we had the COVID. He had to run up a big budget. The budget was substantial because the economy was shut down. They gave money to everybody to try to help them out. And we had a huge budget deficit on par with World War II. Well, when Biden came in, the COVID was kind of over and it's gone away. But the Democrats were like, hey, wow, look, we spent all this money and not much seemed to happen. Why don't we just keep spending the money? Interest rates really didn't go up that much. They're at record lows, and so this is just, we'll just keep spending this much money. And so they've been spending money at 6.5%, 7% of GDP. And it worked real well for a while through 2021, and the interest rates started going up, and since then the rates have gone up. But we're trillions and trillions of dollars worth of debt. Well, a lot of that COVID spending ended last year with the budget deficit, and so it's all dropping off now. So government, this money that's been going out to state and local governments is drying up. So there's starting to be layoffs. Trump he'd like to lay off maybe 6 or 8% of the workforce. They're making big cuts. They're finding billions of dollars of these aid programs as well that appear to be kind of quasi-spending programs that basically what they did is just shovel the money to some NGO, which is a non-government organization, to kind of spend the same money that couldn't get approved through Congress in another type of way, and so they kind of disguise it. So all this money is being cut back, so people are being laid off. Well, one of the better indicators of where the economy is going is put together by the Atlantic Federal Reserve. It's called the Atlanta GDP Now number. 2 days ago, it was at 2.3% growth, real economic growth, which is not bad, but it just came in at 1.48% because they had some of the spending drops that came in that we're seeing. Spending is dropping out there, and government spending is dropping, and all of a sudden it's at a negative 1.5%, which is a huge drop, which means the economy is slowing. At the same time, inflation is still, very high. It's higher than normal. It seems to be going up again. So what we're dealing with is a slowing economy and inflation, which is stagflation, and that's what's getting the stock market. In addition, you have a tremendous amount of uncertainty of how much President Trump is going to cut through the Doge Commission. That's slowing down the economy. Houses are appearing all over the place in Washington, D.C. up for sale. And keep in mind, those are 7 of the top wealthiest counties in the United States. These guys have all been at the trough of Washington, D.C. like a bunch of hogs at the trough. And so here we are. The economy is starting to slow down. In addition, there's uncertainty about the war in the Ukraine, the war in the Middle East, what's going on there, that we have what's going to happen with inflation, what's going to happen with the tariffs. President Trump has reiterated, look, we're serious about these tariffs. We're putting a 25% tariff on Mexico, 25% on Canada, 25% on Europe. Well, they're going to negotiate some of these down, and they're going to have, reciprocal tariffs of some type. But he is serious. We're not messing around. I mean, you saw it in the Oval Office. We're tired of being pushed around by people. We've a remarkably generous country. We've helped countries around the world, and all they basically do is laugh in our face when we ask for help on anything. And it's just, if you look at Mexico, I mean, there's no country on the planet that's got more than Mexico. I mean, if you look at the remittance coming off of Mexico, if you look at the plants, the auto companies, all the plants we've put in down there, if you look how much money the cartels made off of the illegal immigrants, it's been billions of dollars. I'm hearing in some cases $1 billion a week coming in, $500 million a week these guys were making. Never mind how much money they were making off of fentanyl, which killed hundreds of thousands, 100,000 Americans per year, more than the Vietnam War, were dying from fentanyl every year, and nobody cared under Joe Biden. Donald Trump is like, look, we're not tolerating this. We've got drones flying over Mexico, over the cartel areas. We've got planes looking all over the place. We're not messing around. We've made it clear if they continue this, we will go into Mexico to take out the cartels. Look, this is real simple. 100,000 people dying. We will not tolerate that. If China did that to us, if Russia did that to us, there would be a war. Mexico is doing that to us. And so Mexico is now trying to cooperate. They sent over 25 drug lords that they've captured that were in their prisons. That, we're not messing around. I think you're going to see some big changes. If these cartels are smart, they're going to disband real quickly, take their money, and walk away. We'll see what happens there. But all of these are big changes. What's going to happen with these tariffs? So it doesn't make sense in an environment of stagflation, rising inflation, declining economic growth, declining employment, war, tariffs, all these things that you have a stock market dancing ever higher to new highs. And so the question comes in is, what do you do right now? The market's sold off. I think it was off 1% this week in the S&P 500. It's back to even year to date. Is it over? Look, probably not. There's a couple things if you look at. If you look at, this is what we've seen so far is they've basically blown out a lot of retail speculators, people that are buying back and forth, trading hot AI stocks, quantum computing stocks. Some of these stocks are down 40, 50%. But the big institutions, they're not in there. They're in there for the long term. They're not concerned. Those guys are going to have to get shaken out. And so the market's had a sell-off. It's had a big rally back up. But if you look at I don't have the latest oscillators for Friday, but the McClellan oscillator was about 81, a negative 81. Typically it takes a negative 300. The 10-day advanced decline indicators average, it was about 50, negative 50. Typically it's a negative 800. Those, we're not even close to being oversold from almost anything we look at. I think we were to the point where you get a little bounce, you're going to bounce back up. But I think you still have to be cautious in here. The 1% of the S&P on the Dow really doesn't really telegraph the amount of carnage that really went on here. I don't think it was interesting. The NYA, which is the more broader average, actually ended up on the week. And so what they're doing is they're rotating into other stocks. But the problem still comes in with the S&P 500. There's these massive market caps in these stocks, a lot of which his business model is changing rapidly. What's really remarkable about a lot of the big tech stocks is these people are spending trillions of dollars. I mean, I say trillion, typically it's like, that's an exaggeration, but no, it's trillions of dollars. Typically when you're spending trillions of dollars of CapEx, having to do a big, massive cap up spending, if you're a company, we've got to upgrade all our facilities, we have to spend all this money, put in new factories. Typically, your earnings drop off a little bit because you've got capital expenditures coming in. Now you can expense those over time, and that's kind of what they're doing. But typically, during a big capex upgrade cycle, you tend not to see earnings accelerate ever higher. And so I think this is what we're dealing with, these big cap stocks. The market caps of these things are so big, and we've been saying this for a while, it hadn't happened, but I think it ultimately is once these things start going down, there's not enough money in the world to kind of cover them. Right now, the stock buyback programs are kind of coming in, but it's likely to get worse with them. If you look at something like Bitcoin, it was an unmitigated disaster for Bitcoin. Looking at let me see here, just here's the Bitcoin ETF. It went from 55 down to 47. These things have just plunged. Let me pull up another. Bear with me just a second. Let me get I should have pulled this up ahead of time, which I didn't. But and this is going somewhere here in a minute. Just pick up the chart. There it is. I've got all types of charting systems, which I pay in ridiculous amounts of money, but I've got to go pull one off the internet because I'm not. But so what we're doing, Bitcoin has had a big sell-off as well. And looking at that one was over the last month is down 19%. Year to date, Bitcoin is down about 11%. 10%, somewhere in there. So it's not doing well. The market's not doing well. What the sector that's done the best is really the precious metals. If you look at gold, gold is up about 7%. Silver's up about 6.6%. The SLV is actually up about 10%. The GLD is up about 11%. It's just, I mean, there's probably just some timing issues there. Those are holding up well. Again, uncertainty, inflation, these are all coming up. Now, there's a lot of talk behind the scenes with President Trump that something is going to happen with, they're trying to get some grand deal to try to sit there, and one of the problems they're running into is he's trying to restructure the economy. We know that our military is not in good shape. A couple things. The DEI, they've been paying so much attention to DEI. They've not been paying attention to keeping the military up to par. We've shipped over enormous amounts of our munitions and missiles and tanks, all types of stuff over to Ukraine to a guy that basically spit in our face yesterday at the Oval Office. And so they've got to rebuild the military. But we've got to sit there and build out our AI infrastructure. We've got to rebuild a lot of things. We're too dependent on China. And one of the problems we've had is over the last 25 or 30 years, money has gone into the government spending, which has ramped up enormously. Under Biden, it just went crazy. It went into Wall Street. I mean, Wall Street 50 years ago, they would be used to build out. They're not, honestly, Wall Street doesn't build anything out. Wall Street tends to take over companies. They tend to rationalize the companies. They tend to make them more efficient and boost earnings. That's not conducive to building factories. That's not conducive to innovation. If you look at a lot of the innovation, it's coming from private companies because innovation costs money. It costs money for research and R&D. It costs money for factories. With the exception of AI, data server farms, nobody wants to put factories in because it hurts the earnings. And so we've got to downsize government, and we have to downsize Wall Street, and we have to upsize manufacturing. And one of the ways to do that is if we can get the dollar to go lower. The dollar is higher because honestly, the market has been pretty hot for a year or two. A lot of foreign money is pouring into the United States, which increases demand for dollars, which just pushes up the dollars, which makes U.S. exporters less competitive and makes imports more competitive. So they're looking at a grand design. So what you understand is there are big changes happening under the Trump administration. I mean, this DOGE Commission is much bigger than anybody thought it was, much more detailed, much more probing. It's a complete restructuring of government operations. These are big things. Donald Trump wants manufacturing back in the United States. He's going to put tariffs in there and reduce regulations to get there. But, there's always winners in every type of world. In the type of world of Donald Trump, the losers are government. The losers are Wall Street, but the winners are going to be the American people. The winners are going to be factories and efficiency in the United States, in manufacturing efficiency and a build out. We pay way too much attention in the United States to corporate efficiency. I've had people. I've talked to people from other. I talked to a banker the other day, and they do a lot of business around the world, and they said, a lot of Europeans come in. This is from specific manufacturing here. Come to the United States, and they're kind of shocked at the factories. The factories aren't as sophisticated as the European factories, because again, people in corporate America, they're paying so much attention to the bottom line, trying so much to cut costs. They don't want to upgrade the factory. They don't want to make things more efficient if they can just keep running things and keep the earnings up. So Trump is trying to change all of this. These are big, massive changes. It's much more. These changes are so much more than people realize. Look what just happened this weekend. The Europeans basically are all in for war with the Ukraine after what Zelensky said, where the American people are like, look, we want peace. We believe in diplomacy. The Europeans are going, hey, we want war. We want to take out. We want to sit there and continue this war. That is a game changer. That is a new age, a different world. And so how do we navigate through this? We'll be right back after this quick break right here on the Max Out Savings Show.
If you've got savings and investment questions, Ted Gioka has answers. Call the Max Out Savings Show now at 713-339-1070. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. Ted Gioka, the founder of Max Out Savings Advisors, always says, save aggressively and invest conservatively. He specializes in helping people grow their retirement account with as little risks as possible. Ted combines working knowledge with the intuition gained from over 25 years of experience of value investing in the stock and bond markets for retirement accounts. Like you, Ted is deeply conservative in life and in his investment approach. His risk strategy allows him to anticipate market downswings to protect your money. Ted is also the conservative host of the Max Out Savings Show. You can listen to him every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. right here on The Answer. If the idea of saving aggressively and investing conservatively appeals to you, the best way to get to know Ted is to call him. The number is 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com. That is maxoutsavings.com. Call Ted right now, 713-627-0400 or visit maxoutsavings.com.
Hi, I'm Sam Malone, the owner of Houston's cutting-edge media company called 512 New Media. At 512 New Media, we create amazing videos that companies use on their websites, telling their story in bold colors with exciting animation and graphics. At 512 New Media, we also shoot television commercials and instructional videos. And if you want to show off your business from the air, we're ready to go with our drone video aircraft. Let us help you create your media message. We're online at 512newmedia.com or call 281-822-8803. 512 New Media is Houston's only media creation and distribution company that's actually owned by someone who's currently on the air. And that gives us an incredible edge when creating content for consumers to use on their laptops, tablets, and smartphones. Standing by to create your message, we're 512 New Media, 512newmedia.com.
In the 1970s, the big song was the Bee Gees' Stayed Alive. Well, it was difficult back then to stay alive if you were a retiree. Inflation was running rampant, and since then, over the last 25 years, it's gone away. Well, inflation's coming back, and it's going to endanger your retirement. If you're a retiree, inflation is your biggest enemy. Hi, this is Ted Gioka of the Max Out Savings Show. If you need help with your retirement, I'd like to help you out. Go to maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com, and we'll show you how you manage through inflation. Don't let inflation destroy your retirement.
And now, more of the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka.
Welcome back to the Max Out Savings Show. Also want to mention one of our sponsors, Rangoni Alto Gin, one of the finest botanical gins in the entire world. It's all organic, natural. It's a wheat alcohol, remarkably smooth. Doesn't have additives in it. It's all just pure alpine water. And natural botanicals. As you get a chance, try it out. It's Rangoni Alto Gin. Look for the kingfisher bird on the label. Get it over at Specs. So we have we have these big changes happening. We've got to refinance about $7 trillion. I've seen up to $9 trillion this year of debt, either refinance or borrow additional. So and so this has kind of held up interest rates. But now with the economy weakening, this has just happened in the last couple of days. Remember, we've been talking about this show. The economy is going to weaken. So I still think we're in very unstable times, and so I think you want to look at your shots. A couple interesting things we're seeing. The more stable demand stocks are starting to move up because people are realizing we can slow down. Foreign stocks appear to be moving up. It's two reasons. One of them is that they're remarkably cheap. You know, if you look at the market caps, you look at the valuations, the U.S. stocks versus Europe, Japan, China. It's just off the charts in the United States. And the other thing is that there really appears to be a break with the Europeans. I mean, the Europeans, as I said, they've really become this kind of globalist cabal over there that appears to be wanting to go to war with President Trump, and so they're pulling money out of the United States, and so all of these things are adding up. I was looking at our oils, and some of the oils were all down one day, and Shell was up. Well, it was the foreign company, and that's what we appear to be happening. I think the dollar is in the process of peaking. I would say it's so tough. The dollar should be going down. It's too expensive. But then when you look at the Europeans, and every single time they're about to get the war over with Russia, and all of a sudden, they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory Friday. So it's hard, but I think over time we'd like to see the dollar go lower. I think that Treasury Secretary Bissett has made it clear a couple things. Look, this is a Joe Biden economy. This is the bleed off of this orgy of spending, particularly in the last 9 months before the presidential election, is now bleeding off, and the economy is slowing. Plus, they're doing the Doge program. So you're not going to see, as he said, the real Trump economy for 6 to 9 months into the future, right? Which is not a good remark about the stock markets in here right now, because clearly, they're dealing with these are two big trends. I mean, the comment it was a Democrat, a guy made the comment, we were basically throwing gold bars off the Titanic, right before the election. It looks like Trump might win. They were just trying to shovel money out the door. Well, that's all going away. All that COVID money ended September of last year. And so, some of the states, municipalities, and school districts, they kind of kept some on, but it's running out. They're going to have to start laying people off. So the market this week, the sell-off was really about, we have a slowing economy, and inflation's is still going up, stagflation. So I don't think this is over yet. So I think we continue to watch it. I think gold is going to have a correction. Silver, I still think they're going to outperform. The world is too unstable out there right now, and people don't trust these fiat currencies. That's not going away. We want to kind of watch and see what's going to happen with China. What Trump is trying to do is he wants to downsize government, upsize manufacturing. This is why all these companies are promising factories. Houston is finally getting a factory. And this is the first really big one in a long time. Everyone else has been getting factories but us. And so Houston is getting an Apple plant to produce, I believe, AI servers. So this is exciting. So things are happening, but it's just a lot of shifting going on, and you want to be a little more cautious in that environment. Now, I've got to say, a couple things. I've said on this show numerous times, look, if you use a banker, go to a small bank. Small banks are better. They're always, they got people there. You can find a person to talk to. It's always, they're nice. They get things done quickly. Even the knock about you can't do business if you're elsewhere. We clients. I do business all over the world. We do business with a lot of smaller banks that are able to move things, to handle international transactions. They're just a joy to deal with. The big banks, are just all they're doing is cutting people. Well, I should have listened to myself, and I have a number of smaller bank accounts. I have a bigger account. My mom has an account at Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is shutting down the Spring branch. She's got to move her safety deposits. But they've been asking her. She's very old. She wasn't doing well. But the date was, hey, we're closing in 2 weeks. You got to have your box out by this Friday, or else, or we're going to drill them out. And we're keeping them for 90 days. We're giving everybody who's left. And it's not enough time. I mean, they should give people at least a year in a safety deposit boxes before they move them, because people can't react that quickly, particularly older people. So we moved the safety deposit. They're very nice at the bank. We've done business with them for like 50 years at that bank that my parents have, and it's go to the new bank. Oh my God. by the time the service was so horrific for my mother, by the time we were done, I got the approval for my brother and sister to retain a lawyer to go after Wells Fargo. My mother, was in intensive care 3 days ago. They finally get her over to rehab. They got to move this stuff over there. And then they had her sitting around waiting at the bank and because she didn't have an appointment, and they were moving people ahead of appointments ahead of her. And some lady saw how bad a condition my mom was in. It was a nightmare. And the reason we're retaining an attorney is I never want to see elderly people treated like that again by Wells Fargo. I get that they got a program and you've got to, if you don't have an appointment, you're going to have to wait. They strategically make you wait so everybody gets the message to get the appointment. But my mother was very ill, and I was shocked at the service we got from Wells Fargo. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it just kept getting worse and worse, and they wanted us to sit in the lobby when we've got this bag full of different assets from these safety deposit boxes, and we're supposed to sit patiently. I mean, I just couldn't believe the whole thing at all. They had one person working that could meet people at the back. It was extraordinary. But the utter lack of concern for the elderly and handicapped people was just, I felt like it was just unbelievable. So, these big banks, this is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people that all they want to do is cut costs, shut branches, and they could care less about you. And, we're not going to take it. We're going to make sure that this never happens to another elderly person again. And if it costs us some money, we'll just pay. We don't care. I was just absolutely outraged with the treatment at Wells Fargo. I mean, I was thinking, I can't even remember in all the years of doing business, we never even remotely had to deal with a situation like this. I mean, it's just we always were able to work with people and stuff. But and I called to complain, and there's nowhere to put a complaint. You got to put something into some notification at the board level or something. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. There's no one to talk to. I'm like, no. Yeah, like, okay, fine. And so anyway, it's just appalling that these big banks. Go. One of the ladies that said, "Look, you can. I don't need to go. I can wait. You can go in." She even tells me, she goes, "Go to PNC Bank. My daughter works there. They're so nice. It's unbelievable." It's just, I don't know what it is with these big banks. I mean, one minute they're debanking conservatives or debanking. I remember my son actually tried to get an account at Wells Fargo, but since he had a crypto company, they wouldn't let it. They told him they weren't going to do it. But the level of contempt for their fellow human beings at Wells Fargo is just, we're not going to tolerate it. But anyway, so I'm sorry to bring that up, but, I've said it, and, there's something in the management of that company that is very wrong at Wells Fargo. Anyway, so where was so back to the markets. I don't think this correction is over. What I'm trying to get you to understand here is, and it's kind of a long, winding road today, is Donald Trump is making huge changes. He has put together it's transitional, transformative government. He has put together the strongest cabinet since Franklin Roosevelt. Go back and look what Roosevelt was able to do, and he's making big changes. The world has big changes. We have a massive debt problem in the United States. We have a massive $36 trillion. It's been projected that we could hit $40 trillion by the end of the year. We have to refinance $7 to $8 trillion or borrow additional. Between the refinancing and additional borrowing, about $7 to $8 trillion. We're borrowing $1 trillion every 100 days. We can't afford this. We're going to go off a cliff financially into a hyperinflation that's going to destroy our standard of living, like what happened to Germany. But there's time to correct it. So Donald Trump sees this. He's got a very strong Treasury Secretary in Bassett. It's just very J.D. Vance. Secretary Rubio. Every time there's more people I can name that I didn't name before. So they're making big changes. But this is going to be transformative. This is going to take time. That you're going to see big changes. We're trying to deal with the war in Israel, a war in the Ukraine. We're trying to solve them. You see how difficult it is. You can see that there's people in Europe that want war. And so the Chinese, they're coming after us. We've got to compete on the Chinese. We have to deregulate. We've got to get our finances in order so we can compete on that level. We have to deal with the fentanyl coming across the border. We have to deal with the illegal aliens. We have to restructure the government to make it more efficient so our factories can perform. We can produce the armaments and protect the United States and also produce the things we need to in this country. These are big changes. You got the Europeans and the Davos people. They're coming after them. The globalists want to try to stop Trump. So this is all. There's big changes happening. So you want to be more cautious. You want to be shorter-term bonds. You want to spread your risk out in stocks, bonds, commodities, short-term, overseas. Start looking overseas. We picked up an overseas stock the other day. We're big on it. It was just I couldn't believe we were able to get a stock at that level. But these are opportunities. So if you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. You can sign up for the free newsletter, in which we send out once a month detailing all. If you sign up for the newsletter, you're not going to hear from us except the newsletter. If you would like help, give us a call at 713-627-0400 or go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. I will sit down. I'll show you how we manage money at Max Out Savings Advisors. We'll take a look at your financial situation, see how you're set for retirement, what you can do. That's a free consultation. Okay, just go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. So all these changes are going to create opportunity, but it's also going to create dangers. And so what you want to do is kind of avoid the dangers and take advantage of the opportunity. So if you need some help, go to our website, maxoutsavings.com. That's maxoutsavings.com. Until then, remember our motto and philosophy, which is to save aggressively, invest conservatively. That, my friends, is the key to building up wealth through the long term. Stick with us. We're going to try to keep you up with everything that's happening in the world and help you out. So if you need some help, keep listening to the show, or also catch our podcast. You can catch any time by going to KNTH's website. It's Max Out Savings, and thanks for listening to the Max Out Savings Show.
This has been the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka, a presentation of Max Out Savings Advisors. Join us next Saturday at 10 a.m. for the Max Out Savings Show with Ted Gioka on AM 1070. The Answer.
AM 1070 and FM 103.3. The Answer.